We move over to the Indo-Pacific, where Beijing has strongly criticized countries making trade deals with the United States at China's expense. The Chinese government warned that such appeasement would not bring peace, and those compromising China's interests would face countermeasures. China has been hit with tariffs as high as 145% on some products, while the rest of the world faces 10% levies. In response, Beijing has imposed its own 125% duties on US goods. A spokesperson for China's Commerce Ministry stated that seeking temporary gains at China's expense would ultimately harm everyone. The comment comes as the US and China continue to negotiate over tariffs, with both sides still at odds. Beijing has vowed to fight the trade war to the end and criticized what it calls Washington's protectionist approach. Let's turn to Central America. Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele has sparked international controversy by offering a prisoner swap to Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The return of 252 Venezuelan migrants recently deported from the United States and detained in El Salvador in exchange for the release for an equal number of Venezuelan political prisoners. Venezuela's Attorney General Tareck William Saab swiftly rejected the proposal, calling it cynical and demanding full details on the detained migrants, including legal status, charges and proof of life. The migrants were deported under the 1798 Alien Enemies Act, a wartime law the Trump administration has revived to justify mass deportations, citing gang ties, particularly to Trendy Aragua, now labelled a terrorist organisation by Washington. The US Supreme Court halted further deportations over the weekend, questioning the administration's use of the obscure law. Among the deportees is Maryland resident Kilmar Obredo Garcia, who was mistakenly expelled despite a court ruling protecting him from deportation. Let's listen in to what James Sample, Hofstra University law professor, had to say.
So for the Supreme Court to weigh in at 1 a.m. on a Saturday, on a holiday weekend no less, tells you that the Supreme Court does not have faith that the government of the United States of America will follow through on the orders that it receives from the Supreme Court. That is a dire and telling circumstance.
Senator Chris Van Hollen, after visiting Garcia in El Salvador, accused the Trump administration of violating constitutional rights and ignoring the Supreme Court's order to facilitate Garcia's return. He also asked the Trump administration it should put up or shut up in court. Meanwhile, Trump lashed out on his Truth Social, not specifically naming the High Court, but slamming the weak and ineffective judges and law enforcement officials who are allowing this sinister attack on our nation to continue, he said. On the other hand, Bukele claims the deportees are violent criminals, while Venezuela insists many of its political prisoners are jailed without due process for opposing Maduro's rule. The proposal highlights growing tensions over migration, human rights and executive power as deportations continue to fuel legal and diplomatic battles across the Americas.